In one of my recent videos talking about how I think the Nikon D800 is a perfect camera for landscape, studio and amateur photographers, I got a couple of comments from different people just saying, hold on, this is the last camera I would advise an amateur to get. And I think what there is here is a communication issue here. Some people consider to be amateur, what some people consider to be professional, and where it all fits in. So here is my concept of amateur, professional, beginner, intermediate, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to put it in an amazing graphic here. So pretty much anyone buys a camera, they are a beginner at the very start. So I'm like, okay, so you've just bought a camera, you're a beginner. Now when you're a beginner, you don't know anything. So what is ISO? What is aperture? Why is this lens more expensive than this lens? I don't understand. And you are in a massive learning curve at that stage. So I would not say the Nikon D800 would be a good camera for a beginner. It's way too advanced, and as people have said, far too unforgiving if you don't have your skill set about you. However, once you've got out of your initial buying phase of, hey, I have a camera, here I have a lens, and you are into the zone of learning. So I want to learn what aperture is, I want to know what ISO is best, I want to know what dynamic range is, I want to know how to do an HDR, I want to know how to do panoramic. That's when a beginner then goes into an intermediate area of photography. So what I would say an intermediate photographer skill level would be is once you've got to the level of if you're able to take fast and accurate instruction from another photographer, if they were to say, right, stop down that flash by 2 stops, increase the ISO by half a stop, change the white balance by 3000 Kelvin to the warm side. If you don't know what anything I just said there, then I would say you're still in the beginner level. Intermediate, I would say, is you know pretty much everything there is to know about the camera techniques, and that's a good place to be. Being an intermediate photographer is a fantastic place. You can still get amazing photos as a beginner and amazing photos as an intermediate. The only thing is with an intermediate is that you have a bit more control and knowledge of knowing exactly how you're meant to be getting it, instead of it just, most of the time being blind luck. The difference between an intermediate and an expert, I would say, is that the expert is somebody who has all the intermediate skills. However, they're not limited by any of the, for example, any of the equipment or experience or lack of experience that an intermediate might have. So in other words, if somebody says, can you do this, can you do that? An expert is somebody who has maybe been doing it for a while, has a good knowledge base of either, you could say, locations or types of shooting or ways of shooting, which is only really developed from doing it over a certain period of time. And an expert can be made within a year, I would say, if you are intensively, actively doing your type of photography. And again, as an expert, you can still take terrible photos. So that's what I would consider to be the path. Beginner to intermediate. Most people stay in the intermediate. An expert is somebody who is fully involved in it and also not limited by any of their gear. So they probably have a collection of all the right lenses, all the right cameras, all the right flashes. And if they were to go to any sort of job, they wouldn't be kind of going, oh, I haven't done this kind of stuff before. It's somebody who's done each type of job that they're going to be doing. So there's not so much as an expert photographer. There may be an expert portrait photographer, expert fashion photographer, expert landscape photographer. The expert landscape photographer may know nothing about how to do headshots. Completely different thing. However, what I would say is none of this comes under amateur or professional. Professional, in my head, is purely somebody who is doing it full time. Now, don't get confused between the use of noun or adjective. Professional, amateur, professionally, or amateurly. Okay, there's different ways of using these words here. So a professional is purely just a term of somebody who is doing it as a living for their job, 9 to 5, or if you're a nightclub shooter, 5 to 9, kind of stuff. That's a professional photographer. You can be a professional photographer and be rubbish. You can be a professional photographer and only just be out of the beginner stage. You can be an amateur photographer and be an expert. So these are not different things. But there is something which I would say is the Gwac. Gwac. Do any of you know what a Gwac is? That is if you are a beginner and you kind of, cool, this thing's got auto, and you never really bother going into, like, I want to figure out the settings, I want to figure out composition, I want to know why the rule of thirds is the way that it is, I want to know this and that, blah, 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 blah. And you end up just being a guy with a camera or a girl with a camera. You can use other things like mum with a camera, dad with a camera, dwac, whack, gwac. Gwac is what I would say, Gwac. Guy with a camera. And that's what a lot of people that you'll see, tourists, a lot of tourists, they have a digital SLR and they're using the green spot, and it's midday and they're using the pop-up flash. It's stuff like that. That's a Gwac. So that, again, that is not somebody I would consider to be amateur or professional either. I would also not put it in a hierarchical structure. Hierarchical saying that, oh, you're amateur and then professional at the top. I would say amateur and professional can be absolutely, what I would say, if there was, it would be the Gwac at the bottom. So that's at the bottom. But if you hierarchical would be beginner, intermediate, expert, and then from there you can be an expert and amateur photographer. You can be an intermediate and professional photographer. What I would say is that another way of looking at it is a professional may make their money out of photography from a 9-to-5 job of doing it. An amateur may make thousands of pounds by taking a fantastic shot and selling it effectively. Sometimes, a lot of the time, the professional photographers are actually really professional businessmen with only intermediate photography skills. And sometimes, a lot of the time, some of the best photos are done by expert photographers who are just amateurs at it, who are just doing it for the fun of doing it. So that would be my advice, is that there is definitely a difference between amateur and professional, but purely in a business sense. But it's not related to beginner, intermediate, or expert. And the worst of all, this video is not really for anyone who's a guy with a camera, because they're not interested. They just want to go along and take some photos. They might as well use an iPhone. But if you're somebody that's trying to get better, I would absolutely still recommend the Nikon D800 once you're in the intermediate level. That's my thoughts. Maybe you can argue with me. Let me know. Cheers. Bye-bye. One last thing is that if you are on my photography channel, you may not know that I've got two other channels. One is my exercise channel, which you can check out, which is Dom Bauer Exercise. I think the actual name is just youtube.com/Dom Bauer. And I've also got another one on this channel, so I've got Dom's Talks, and a lot of that is going to be about me dealing with my first ever newborn baby, little Logan Bauer, born on the 4th of September, and so I'm learning to be a dad. So it's all my mistakes and all the things which I'm learning which are quite useful. So if you want to see more about little Logan and how he's getting on, check out Dom's Talks. And if you want to see, I've also got Dom's Flights as well. So again, I'm doing a lot of stuff flying my DJI Phantom around the places, and also going through the process of getting the license to do it commercially. So if you want to see how I'm doing that, check out the Dom's Flights channel as well, which I put all the links to down below. So thanks for watching. Bye bye.